I think people mistakenly believe that our government, other governments have not released lots and lots of data and information about UFOs. And I will tell you that is not true. Seeing odd things in the sky and wondering what they might be, that goes back to ancient days. That's as old as there have been human beings in the world. But this more recent thing that we identify with UFOs, that's a phenomenon that only started right after World War II in 1947. There's a guy in Washington State who's flying a private airplane around Mount Rainier in the summer of 1947, and he sees some really strange things as he's flying along. He says there's like 9 aircraft-seeming things that are flying in a pattern together, and he comes down on the ground, reports it, tells the media about it. At the time, his own attitude about it was that this stuff is really just probably secret military aircraft or experimental reconnaissance rockets or something like that. But he didn't really know. And when he was asked by a journalist about how did these things move, he said, well, they kind of moved like a saucer would if you skipped it across water. And some really ambitious, clever journalist came up with the moniker, the headline, Flying Saucer. And within weeks, 90% of Americans reported they had heard this term flying saucer.
Tonight, you may be the first television audience to see a flying saucer.
February the 18th, 1952, I saw 2 flying saucers over Tierras Canyon at 6:45 a.m.
Nobody is clear on what this could possibly be.
But here is a picture that was released just today by the United States Coast Guard. It shows 4 luminous objects in formation in the sky over Salem, Massachusetts.
And the idea that it's alien, that it might be extraterrestrials, that was really kind of low on the totem pole at the time. Really, most people believed it had to have some kind of other explanation. War in general, and particularly the Cold War, had a lot to do with how this thing was talked about. There's an awareness that advanced technologies are out there and that we would not be told about them until they're sort of carted out. We know for a fact that in the 1950s and 60s, people were in fact witnessing really, really bizarre and strange looking aircraft in the skies. And those aircraft in the end actually were secret planes, right? Things like the U-2 spy plane and things like that. And the military, there was no way the government was going to come forward and say, we have this, by the way, this secret airplane that we used to spy on the Soviets. They're like, well, we're pretty confident this isn't us. So who is it, or are these things genuine, and do we have reason to be concerned? They flag and recruit a few people within their circles to look into this stuff, to take in reports that are out there, to analyze the reports, and to do, kind of intelligence work on it. So the interest of the Air Force has always basically been one thing. Are these things a national security threat? And basically all of these projects concluded the same thing, that no, we don't see any reason to be concerned about this stuff. There is a lot of stuff that's long since been declassified. Our government and multiple governments across the world, ever since the mid-2000s, right, around 2005 or 6, it began. They just started declassifying and releasing reams and reams of information and reports about this stuff.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
I think the reason why you still will always have secrecy surrounding this stuff is, as I talked about before, This stuff deals with military intelligence and national security issues. People who are UFO investigators and have done it for a long time will tell you the vast majority, the number that people usually bandy around is anywhere from 95 to 98% of sightings are easily explainable by mundane things, meteorological phenomenon, the planet Venus, optical illusions, aircraft, balloons, all sorts of things. The question has always been, okay, what do we do with that 2 to 5% that don't seem to be easily explainable on the surface? For me, I'm pretty comfortable living in a world of ambiguity.
My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
I want us to have a process to analyze the data. Every time it comes in, that there be a place where this is cataloged and constantly analyzed until we get some answers.
We keep using the mystery to ask questions about who we are. What are we capable of? What possibilities are there for our society? What are our technologies doing to us? What is the fate of the planet? All of those questions were being asked already in the 1950s, and they're still being asked today. And the UFO thing gives us a way to do that.